All right. March 18th. So these four questions right here. Says Samantha, question number one. Samantha is making a fruit salad with pineapples and bananas. Her proportions are 2 parts pineapple to 3 parts bananas. If she cut 8 parts of pineapple, how many parts of bananas will she need to cut up? So, looks like they want us to form some kind of proportion. So um, we have, zoom in, we have, I'm going to put pineapple to bananas. Okay, well, lots of ways I can already see myself doing this. So it says, I'm seeing myself needing some room. So on the top goes pineapples. So they gave me this information right here. So this is what we have. And we need to figure out what we want. Well, I have, in the numerator on this side right here, in the numerator, I know that that's going to be pineapples. Well, how many pineapples do we have? Well, we have 2 parts pineapple, so 2 parts pineapples. In the denominator, well, I know that means bananas, so I have 3 parts bananas. And what we want, well, it says if she cut 8 parts of pineapple, so 8 parts of pineapple, where is this number gonna go? Is it gonna go on the numerator or the denominator? Well, let me erase that. Since it's talking about pineapples, and I know pineapples goes on the numerator, it must be 8. 8 pineapples. And I want to figure out how many parts of bananas. So I'm going to figure out that bottom missing piece right here. That needs to be my unknown variable, which represents bananas. Okay, so I remember showing you guys 2 different ways. You can either you can identify how this 2 magically turned into an 8. Whatever happened there is the same thing will happen on the bottom. Or you can do a little bit of Wakanda and cross multiply. Either way works. Both work perfectly fine. So I'm going to do some cross multiplying. 2 times x, 2x. 3 times 8 is 24. How on earth do I get that x by itself? Well, it's being multiplied. What's the opposite of multiplying by 2x? It's dividing by 2. 2 on top, 2 on bottom. That makes a 1. And 1 times x, that is just x. And then 24 divided by 2, that is 12. So x equals 12, and remember x represented bananas. So it's 12 bananas. So there it is. And we can, let's see how that'll work. We can confirm. Let's do the other way up top. How did that 2 turn into an 8? Well, it looks like I multiplied it by 4. And we do to the top, 2 to the bottom. So 3 times 4, well, that gives me, that would be 12. So either way works. Whichever one you're more comfortable with, both work fine. So that was number 1. Number 2, identify the constants, coefficients, and the variables. Okay, so constants. Remember, a constant is a number that stands alone. So constant, can I squeeze that in there? Number that stands alone. Okay. And then a coefficient, you call what a coefficient is the number in front of a variable. Okay, so that's a coefficient. And then a variable, well, the variable is it's a letter or symbol that represents some unknown value. So in most cases, well, only letters, right? So we're just looking for symbols / letters because they represent unknown value. So, do I need my calculator for this? Yeah, whatever, it's there. So let's go through this. Constants. So let's see, looking for the constants, and I think it wants me to do all three at once. It's fine. So this top one right here. So the constants. Well, I'm looking for numbers that stand alone. So no, 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 no. Looks like I have two constants because these are the numbers that stand alone. So we got -4/5 and 6.9. Those are the ones that stand alone. Okay. Now the coefficients. I'm looking for the numbers in front of the variables. And I see 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go through this. Remember, the numbers in front of the variable. So -7x, there's a variable. So I'm looking at that number right there. -1/3 y. So I'm looking at that number right there. 4t, that number right there. And there's one more left. And so there's a -r. Well, what number is in front of that -r? What do we think? Well, there is a -1 right there. And so it's going to be that number. So there we are. The coefficients, we got -7, -1/3, 4, and -1. Those are my four coefficients. Okay, and then the variables, well, how many different unknown values do we see here? So I see one right here, one right there. I'm just looking for symbols or letters, right? I don't see any Greek letters, so it must be just regular English alphabet. See one right there, one right there. So the variables, I have an x, have a y, have a t, and an r. And there we are. So the constants, the numbers that stand alone, -4/5 and 6.9. The coefficients are the numbers in front of the variables, and we got those four. And then the variables themselves, those are just the unknown values. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3. This table shows the proportional relationship between the number of cups of sugar and flour used in the recipe. Enter the number of cups of flour for 1 cup of sugar. So the number of cups of flour for 1 cup of sugar. So I'm gonna make my own little part of the table right here. And it says that it wants 1 cup of sugar, and I have some unknown value of flour. So how on earth do you do this? Well, if you know that it's sugar for flour, doesn't really matter which way I do it. I'm going to do 2 1/2. So 2 1/2 cups of sugar, and that gives me 7 1/2 cups of flour, and that's going to equal, well, equal what? How many cups of sugar do I want? I want 1 cup of sugar, and I have some unknown number of cups of flour. So how on earth do I do this? Well, looks like I'm just in a Wakanda mood today. Let's do that. How about that? 2 1/2 times x. Well, that's just 2.5x. 7 1/2 times 1. Well, that's just 7 1/2. How on earth do I get x by itself? Well, I divide top and bottom by 2.5. Oh, sorry, not top and bottom. I divide both sides by 2.5. And so x should equal, I'm running out of room here, guys, sorry. X should equal, well, 2.5, that should go into 7.53 times. It's 2.5, 5.0, 7.5. So let's see, 7.5 divided by 2.5, 3. And so x equals 3. So this should be 3 cups of my unknown, which was flour. So x should equal 3. All I did was continue the table and got to where I needed to get to. There's lots of different ways you could have done this one. I just chose one path that I saw. So it looks like it should be the proportional, the k that I'm looking for, the constant of proportionality. It looks like it's going to be multiply everything by 3, because 1 times 3, that gives me 3. 3 3/4, so 3.75. If I multiply that by 3, it better give me 11. Ooh, didn't work. Let's see. 3.75 times 11. Wonder what went wrong. 2.5 times 3. Doesn't look very proportional to me. This table shows the proportional relationship between the number of cups used. Well, let's just confirm it. It's 11 divided by 3 and 3/4. Well, 3/4, that's 0.75. That's not proportional. Whatever. Just ignore that one. And it should be 3. So it should be 3. Because if this was really proportional, then 7.5 divided by 2.5, that's 3. This is not a proportional relationship. But that's okay. Whatever. It is what it is, guys. Sometimes we make mistakes, but yeah, it should be 3. This should be what we want. If you would have done, if you would have used the 3 3/4 to 11, you would have gotten a different answer, because it's not proportional after all. But that's okay. It's just practice. Okay, and then the last one right here. Hopefully this works, right? So, this is gonna be fun already. I can already sense it. 2/3 y minus 1/5 equals 2/5. Well, how do I get y by itself? Because this is given. Quiet you. Okay, so I want to start moving things away from y. So this right here is standing in the way. And I know this might be a little bit new to us because I don't think in our situation we did too many of these, but that's okay. How do I get that 1/5 to go away? So, that minus 1/5 to go away. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to add 1/5 to both sides. Oops. Just like that. We have a negative 1/5, a positive 1/5. Well, that's 0. That goes away. And we're left with 2/3 y. And we got 2/5 plus 1/5. Well, 2/5 plus 1/5. That equals 3/5. Okay. Now, I need to get y by itself. How should I approach that? Now again, it's 2/3 times y. I could divide both sides by 2/3, but that looks funky. No, we don't want to do that. And you can. It'll be the correct answer. But instead of dividing by 2/3, I'm going to multiply both sides by something. And that something is the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 2/3, 3/2. And then we do to one side, do it to the other. 3 on top, 3 on bottom, 2 on top, 2 on bottom. What's left? Well, just 1 times 1 times y. It's just y. And then you got this over here. Whatever way you know how to, guys. Whatever way you know how to. If you want to multiply straight across, which in this case you're going to have to, because you can't make any ones. Well, 3 times 3 is 9. 5 times 2 is 10. So we get y equals 9/10. You can double check too. 3/5 multiplied by 3/2. And 9/10. 0.99. All right, guys, that was a Wednesday, March 18th.